of this starts with you understanding that you are an energy being in a biomagnetic cellulose form. This is a suit that was built for you. Everything about you, your eye color, your hair color, the way you're built, whether you have a handicap, whether you're really fat or you're really thin, no matter what color you are or where you live, you picked everything. So all of a sudden, nothing is being done to you. You asked the God Source for a life experience on Earth. You agreed to the dynamics and the rules of the game board. You said, yes, I want to go to the Earth experience. Yes, I want to have my life experience. And yes, I'm willing to grow from those life experiences. So that's where we are right now. We're energy beings in suits. Now, the energy beings in suits that we are for all living creatures. The smallest mosquitoes, little caterpillars, everything that lives in nature, not of nature. So not trees and rocks. That's a different system. But if it's a living, breathing creature, that can be killed. It is an energy being in form. It's just picked a little itty-bitty suit. This is why some of the different religions talk about the fact that to do no harm. You know, don't kill something. It is a living entity having its experience the same as you are. And we all create our own story. You know, William Shakespeare said, we are all players on this great stage, and that is what we are. But the stage is your stage. You are the star of your story. And no matter what happens to you, the greatest joys and the most horrendous traumas, you asked for them. This is one of the hardest things that I've ever taught people, because they get caught in their trauma and they're like, oh yeah, but you don't know what happened to me. I'm like, yeah, bitch, I know all about it, because I had it all happen to me. And until I could come to what I'm trying to teach right now, until I could come to the place that I asked for every trauma, I asked for every challenge, I asked for every difficulty. Why would you do that? Why would you come to Earth and ask for these things? Well, it's because when we're happy, there's no growth. We're just experiencing stuff. Oh, this is fun. This is nice. Chocolate milk is good. Oh, cookie is good. Oh, playing in the sand is good. Being in the sun is good. Right? You're just not really learning anything. You're just experiencing blissful, joyful experiences. Well, let me tell you, this is the happy, fun part. That's where we're going. This entire suit is built for pleasure. I always joke, I say every single one of your wet holes, you stick something in it and wiggle it around, it feels good. Everything about these bodies are really built for pleasure. There's nothing that's not built for pleasure. Now, the planet that we're living on right now and the experiences that we're having right now are duality. We have pain and we have pleasure. But the new process, the new field, the new slipping into the new field will only have the pleasure. And this is why we have to stay high frequency. Now, so this is where like, oh, strange words, grids, hexagons, high frequency. What the hell's high frequency? Well, high frequency is maintaining a place of experiencing that life happening and saying thank you for it. Even if you didn't like the life happening, you asked for the life happening, you got the life happening, now you say thank you. And you're like, well, that was horrible. He mugged me. He hit me in the head with a brick. He took my purse. Yes, thank you. And you're like, are you crazy? Why would you say thank you for that? Because you asked for it. Now, why would I ask for that kind of horrendous happening? Because you get a Y-gate decision. You get to choose after that happening to say thank you for it. Please show me how to get out of it with ease and grace as quickly as possible. Or you get to be a victim. Oh, poor me. Wah, I didn't do it. It's not my fault. Somebody else's fault. Somebody did it to me, right? And now you take the other gate around and you come back around again, and guess what? You are offered the exact same happening again. So the quicker you can see, why would my spirit being, why would my soul being ask for a challenging, difficult experience, because that's the only place we grow out of. That's the only place where we get to level up. And as a species, so we're a human being suit, and we're a being in the suit. And from that place, our only true goal here is to level up. So I call it the Mario Kart level up. You know, you're racing around the track, you're having all the experiences, bunch of stuff happens to you, you get an option. Okay, am I going to see it as growth happening right now, and I'm going to see and ask for ease and grace to move out of it? Okay, come around, blah, 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 and you go up to the next lesson. Whereas if you fight the lesson, hey, do I ever know this one? You know, you fight it and you fight it and you fight it, and it comes around 5 times and you finally go, okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you for the experience. How do I learn quickly? How do I move out of this? And then all of a sudden, spirit, energy, form, angels, whatever words suit you, speak to you. And they either speak to you through a book, or they speak to you through a song, or somebody comes into your life and drops a little nugget, a reason, a season, a lifetime. Somebody touches you. There's a blip. You see things differently, and you have a growth. Now you've moved into a higher level of being. Now people are saying, gee, something's different about you. You're acting different. And you're like, yes, I'm living in harmony with my soul being. I understand there's a higher self. I'm working with that higher self because I'm trying to achieve peace, tranquility, harmony here. The beings want us to know that. And they said, we have already been you. So the beings that I'm talking about, you know, people say, who are these beings? Well, they're soul entities. They're, again, we're back to whatever word suits you. The guys that I deal with are like 10 feet tall. And they said that we have to, you know, Aladdin, huge omnipotent power, itty bitty living space. Right? So that's what we are. 10 million megawatts of pure God potential, itty bitty human suit. You know, 5'5", you know, weigh 190 pounds, you eat food, you poop. Like, you look pretty small. But we're incredibly powerful energy beings. You have your own little invocation or your own little prayer. I know I'm divine light in form. People used to say, I'm calling in all the guides. I'm calling in all the light. Ha! Send the light out. You are God in here. If you want to be safe, send it out. I send out my God light. I surround myself 50 miles. I am safe. And I only talk to 100% light. So I call them the Oogie Boogies. The Oogie Boogies show up and you're like, ping, not talking to Oogie Boogies. What else you got? Which leads me into a little piece of section that the beings talked about. How do you get into high frequency and how do you stay into high frequency? So getting into high frequency is 3 simple principles. They said the first thing to do was listen to uplifting music. Music is the language of the soul, not the language of the human. So it pings. Remember I said it's like ping, 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 ping. So they're constantly pinging us with tones. That's the music that I talked about in the very beginning. As long as the words are not counter to that upliftment. So if the words are like, yeah, kill that mother so-so, you know, like, you know, hurt that one, or you're no good, or you're a piece of shit, or if the lyrics are counter to the music, then it's not high frequency and it won't work for you. It won't help you. No matter how good the beat, no matter how good the upliftment, woohoo, that sounds like a great song. If the lyrics are counter, it will not help you. So you can listen to anything. Evan's favorite music was Bon Jovi. And when we were in the hospital, we played uplifting music all day, every day. The doctors thought I was out of my mind. Like, hello, you're playing Bon Jovi. I said, yeah, and we're also playing, you know, like George Michael. So what's the problem? And he said, well, this is highly unorthodox. I said, what the hell do you care? You already said he's dead. So let me play the music, right? So listen to uplifting music with uplifting lyrics. The second one is do random acts of kindness. we don't need a pat on the back for every time we do something. You're not doing it so somebody can give you a kudos. Random acts of kindness is so that you are creating a high frequency feeling in yourself that you are of service to somebody. And the third one is live your joy fully without judgment and say thank you. And it doesn't matter what your joy is, as long as it's not harmful. If your joy is, eating a big old ice cream out on the back deck, I always use ice cream because it's one of my greatest joys. I love ice cream. So if the ice cream came from a place where they were using child labor, that's not going to work. You know what I mean? So you have to be conscious of what your joy is, and does it harm somebody else while you're experiencing it? And if not, then have at it. Now, if you find yourself slipping into low frequency, I just can't break this feeling. Like, how do I get out of it? The first one is do no harm. First and foremost, to yourself. For until you love yourself, you'll never love another. You are a divine piece of God, and until you acknowledge that and see it, embrace it, and love it, wow, I'm so blessed. I'm so thankful. The second one is do all that you do with honesty and integrity. It will deepen your relationship with each other. It will deepen relationship with your earth, your mother, with the stars and the sky people. You become a well-rounded human being that is living in a place of harmony. So that's do no harm, honesty, and integrity. And the third is live your joy fully without judgment and say thank you. And these three principles together make a self-policing individual. You don't need a rule book. You don't need somebody telling you how to behave or how to act, because if you're following these principles, you live that way. I remember I was in a speaking engagement. It was a really big room full of people. And the guy at the very end of the room stands up and he says, yeah, well, it's my joy to rob a bank. I said, well, how human of you. I gave you three principles. Do no harm, honesty, integrity. You live your joy fully without judgment and say thank you. But you picked the one you liked. Oh, I'm going to rob a bank. That's my joy. And I said, that's so classically human. Because if you can rob a bank and do no harm, and if you can rob a bank with honesty and integrity, then go for it. But I don't know how you can do that. So you can't pick the principle that you like and live by it. You have to use them in harmony. So these are all little things that the beings keep saying about keeping your own frequency high. And uplifting music is a really key one. If you're having a really bad day, put on something you love, music-wise. And let your soul have a tone bath. That's a good way to say it. The beings showed up one night at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that was their favorite time to show up and ask me questions and show me things. And they said, do you want to see how much a piece of God you are? Now, remember I said God was uncomfortable for me. So I said, well, first off, I don't even like the name God. And they said, well, just look at it as the giver of directions. And I was okay with that. But at that point, I wasn't okay. I was like, so what other word do you have for God? And they said, it's the brilliant infinity. And you are a cell of light from a pool of light known as the brilliant infinity. And I was like, oh, okay, I can work with that. Because at that point in my time, I couldn't say God comfortably. So they came and they said, do you want to see how much a piece of God you really are? And I said, yes, I do. So they took me out of my body. Now they can do that with all of us. There's two pieces of us. We can take one piece out and the other piece can stay safe in your bedroom, which is, I've now learned lessons about protecting yourself and taking care of yourself. So it's not like you want to go astral traveling all over the world, but if you want to be taken and have an experience, you set up the protection for your body and you go. So they took me out into the heavens because they went out so far I didn't know if they were going in. Like I had no sense of, are we going out into outer space or are we going inside of me? And I didn't have a sense of it. So I kind of decided I was out in outer space because I could see planets and stars and I could see things. But everywhere there wasn't a thing, like a star or a planet, there was this iridescent pink plasma. And it looked to me to be, it was definitely plasma. It reminded me of silly putty. and it had a breath, and it had crackles of electricity running through it, iridescent sparkles, and the closer I got to it, the more I just like, oh, blissed out. It was just so awesome. And they said, this is the God source. This is the pool from whence you come. And I was like, okay. And they said, here's how much a piece of it you are. And a hand came into the vision, the same way the hand was pouring the liquid cups of light into the bucket with Evan's drowning incident. Now I was having this similar type of incident. I was out in space. I felt like I was there. And I saw a hand come in to the realm of where I was. And it took some of this plasma and it pinched it. And as it pulled it through the space and through the cosmos and through the atmosphere, and then it put it in the head of a human, and another hand, and another hand, and another hand. And then I panned back from the earth, and they said, do you see how much a piece of God you are? And all of these beautiful iridescent pink threads had not broken. The peace comes from the God source, and it goes into us. We are a piece of the God source. We are God in form. God, the giver of directions. God, whatever word suits you, the way your language needs it to be. Energy being, creator, source. This is where don't get into defining yourself by what words you use. We are all a piece of this pink iridescent plasma. It's a pool of stem cells. Pure potential. Pure creative potential, and it lives inside of us. Every single one of us have a little piece of it inside of us, but the thread doesn't break. Now, the thread doesn't come out of the top of your head. It actually comes out of your third chakra, the yellow one, which they showed me how to breathe through my third chakra. These are the things you're like, okay, back to blah, 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 blah. Everything's crazy. So this pink thread comes out of us. It's a universal umbilical cord that hooks us to our creator. Now that thread inside of us, if you want to open your communication to source, if you want to channel, if you want to get information about a choice you have to make, you don't have to make it alone. You can open this thread and get a symbiotic relationship happening with your creator. You are like the hand at the arm of God. Without the hand, there's no experience. Without the God, there's no experience. You are in a symbiosis between the two. So this pink thread comes out of your third chakra, and it goes off into the internet, the ethernet, the cosmos, the grid, Now, if you want that thread to become a tube, because you want to open and open and open and open, you only have to will it and say thank you. Think of something joyful and say thank you. Say, yes, I believe this to be true. Thank you. So it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you start this symbiotic relationship with the God, the giver of directions. So it's been my experience that there's 3 ways that we can speak to spirit or to universal consciousness. The first one is YouTube videos. I don't know what else to call them. You'll just close your eyes and you'll see a little happening. It's like, whoa, okay, don't do that, because this is going to happen. So the second way they speak to you is through your ear. You'll hear a sound. It's oftentimes a bell. The more closed off we are, the more muffled it is. So the more open we come, we get this cord of, symbiotic relationship happening. It gets clearer and clearer. So in the beginning, all I heard was ding, 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 ding. So the example of that is when I first started sitting in the bathtub and they started to teach me how to meditate and how to connect and how to use this energy. They said, we're going to show you some images. And I said, okay. And they showed me a kangaroo. And I said, oh, that's a kangaroo. And I heard ding, 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 ding. I was like, yay, I got one right. It's right from the hospital because they always use this little bell. So then they showed me the desert. And I was like, oh, that's the desert. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. I was like, okay, great, 2 for 2. And then they showed me the big red rock in Australia. And that's what I called it, the big red rock in Australia. And they said, Ayers Rock. I said, oh, cool. And they went ding, 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 ding. I was like, okay, we're playing. This is good. I'm winning here. And then I said, are you trying to say Australia? And they went ding, 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 ding. I was like, why the hell didn't you just say Australia? Why did you show me a kangaroo, a desert, and a red rock in Australia? Why didn't you just say Australia? And they said, we can't always just say anything. Sometimes we have to send you an image, and you have to get it. Because there seems to be, remember I said there's rules to the game. There seems to be rules about when they can say something, when they can interfere, how much they can say. So if you show you the kangaroo and the desert and the rock, and you go, oh, Australia, and then they can verify it. Some people just get a single ding, ding. Oh yeah, okay. In my case, I was getting ding, ding, ding. I call it the Bob Barker show, like, okay, I got it. So I get these little downloads from the YouTube video, and then I get this, something in your ear, clear as day. And then the other thing is downloads. You didn't know something, and now you friggin' well do. Like quantum mechanics. I had no idea what quantum mechanics was. I woke up one morning, I knew everything about quantum mechanics, quantum theory. I was like, whoa, but this is not unique to me. Every one of us can do this. It's about saying yes. The first thing we have to do is tell the universe, I know you're there. I know you're there. I know you're part of me, and I know I can connect with you, and I know I can get guidance. And I know in that guidance that I can make wiser, better choices. So when I come up to these why-gate decisions, I don't constantly keep taking the wrong road. I say, show me the next right path. Show me the next right choice. And you take it with ease and grace and say thank you. So I was born dead. I've had 3 near-death experiences. I was born dead. I was courted 3 times. And when I came out, I was a blue baby, and I was completely dead. So they took the cord off, and they set me up, and they did whatever you do to a newborn baby. I was only 4 pounds, a little tiny thing. And I knew I didn't want to come then. I knew that I had taken on something that, I think I'm just going to go home. I don't want to do this. We got to get in the suit. So that when the baby's in the belly, there's nothing in the suit. The being can go in and out. There's an experience of checking out the suit, but there's nothing in that suit, that little baby suit, until that baby comes into this world and takes its first breath. And when the baby goes, the energy goes in on the breath, and this is why the breath is so important. So the baby takes its first breath of air, and the energy being flows into the suit, and then each chakra goes doink, 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 and they all lock in, and now that being is in the suit. And it's a living, breathing entity, but it's a symbiotic relationship. And here's the kicker. That baby is not a human. That baby is an energy being who just got a new car. Oh, look what I can do. Ooh, you ever see a baby trying to figure out how, right? Oh, look. So between that birth moment when that baby finally gets the suit hooked in and everything's plugged in and set up, and probably 5 or 6 years old, depends on what the child's exposed to, that baby is not a human. That baby is a being pretending to be a human or trying to figure out how to be a human, how to manage. I can only imagine your first poop. What was that? Because the being is in there running this little baby. Now, if the baby has a ton of trauma, if the baby is exposed to a ton of real life stuff, shit is happening, that baby will become a human real fast. But do you ever notice everybody loves a child? Under 5 or 6, everybody loves a child because that child is actually a spirit being who just got a new suit, who's just enjoying it. You ever see them? They love grass, they love smelling stuff, they put stuff in their mouth, everything's a big experiment. That's what we really are. And that little baby, until it hits 4 or 5 years old, is an extraterrestrial, otherworldly, multidimensional being in a new suit trying to figure out how to make it work. Now, what happens when we're at 4 or 5 years old? Well, by the time we hit 4 or 5 years old, you have to push the forgetter. There's like a universal rule. You cannot learn anything if you know you're omnipotent. You just can't. Well, because as soon as you're pissed off, you say, I'm going home. Like, this place sucks. I'm going home. And I tell you, I've tried hitting that button a lot of times. I'm going home. So when the baby becomes 4, 5, 6, depends on, like I said, how much trauma it's had, it hits the forgetter. Now, is the forgetter like a movie button that goes, "Oop, that was easy"? I don't know. But the forgetter button makes you forget that you're an energy being in a suit. It's all part of the play. It's all part of being human. So the child goes, okay, I'm ready to play. Doink, it hits the forgetter, and now that child is no longer being in a suit. Now, this is a really cool story. My child was 2 years old, and she kept saying to me, oh, do you remember when I was the mommy and you were the child? And I was like, no. Now, this was before I had any of this happen. And she kept saying, Mom, you know it. And I'm like, no, I don't. And so, of course, I'm thinking my kid's kind of weird. What's going on here? But she described vividly driving a Model T Ford. And she said, you sit up like this and you drive it like this and it bounces. And she talked about the chair. And I was like, holy God. And that was my first introduction of the concept of reincarnation. She definitely was describing something. And she said, you were the child. And I said, oh, yeah. So why were we driving in this car? And she said, my dad was really wealthy. And we had one of these cars. And I was allowed to drive it, even though I was a girl. So she started to describe the late 1800s. I mean, it was amazing. So I really went, oh, we have other lives. So that is the case. Now, Jesus came down here. Buddha came here. Muhammad came here. All of these people came to tell us that what we had as fact was not necessarily fact. They were omnipotent beings. They hadn't pushed the forgetter. They knew they could walk on water. They could divide the loaves. They could do miracles. Because either A, this is all a hologram, and you can do whatever you like, or it does have physicality, and it can be manipulated by those that know they can manipulate it. So that's where we are with it. We're back to acknowledging the fact that we have probably had thousands and thousands of lives that have taught us over and over and over. But this new evolution that's coming, this quantum leap that's coming for us, we will be awake in form. So we will be like Jesus was. We will be awake in our bodies. We will understand that we have an all-powerful, multidimensional life force living inside of our suits. And in that case, we form a symbiotic relationship where it's the best for all. The best for the being and the best for the human. Oh, I want to win $1 million. And the being goes, well, that's not in alignment with the lessons that you set up. You know, obviously the lessons you set up this time are supposed to be, you're going to have poverty. Well, that one sucks. I want to reschedule that. So the beings told me that if you have somebody constantly drying off your field, which is what she's doing, right? So in the book, The Insights, Redfield, what's his name? The Celestine Prophecies. He talks about the fact that energetically there's constantly an ebb and flow happening between two people. And in your case, her flow looks like this, and your flow looks like this. And she looks like this, and you look like this, because she's a drowning person. You ever see a drowning person? They'll drown the person who tries to save them. So she's clawing at you. She's owning most of your field. So the beings explained to me that if you're in that circumstances, two things have to happen. One, don't put your heart to heart with her. Don't stand in front of her. turn your body so that your shoulder or part of your body is in her heart field. She won't be able to take the energy. The second thing is that you put up your own energy egg and you cover it with mirrors or glass, because then when she shoots stuff out, right, it bounces back. It's hers. It bounces back. So there's nothing else you can do. You know, you can say, oh, be positive or be happy, but you know as well as I know, she can't, right? And lots of us are there. So what she needs is your empathy and kindness. So when you get a second, you put up your hands and you say, you know, I send you my love and my empathy, and I hope you feel better. But that's all I have for you. So, and keeping the shoulder to somebody, oh my God, I learned that the hard way, because several times I had somebody just completely rob me of my energy. And I was like, what's happened? And then I realized that the person in front of me was bigger, more powerful than me. Their despair and their angst was more powerful than me. And so I ended up with this little tiny loop, and they had a giant loop like this. And by the time I got home, all I could do was cry and eat. Nom, 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 nom. That's how we fix things. Every choice counts. Right now in particular, every choice we make as an individual counts to whether or not we're moving towards high frequency or low frequency. How you treat the girl at the grocery store is either towards high frequency living or low frequency living. If somebody pisses you off on the phone, and man, do I know that one, because I spent a whole bunch of time on the phone, and I'm like, ah! But the thing is, I kept saying to the girl, thank you for being there. Thank you for helping me. I know you're just a person just like me, and we're trying to negotiate this big business bullshit, right? But we get people on the phone who are angry because they've already dealt with 20 people who are already angry. So as light workers, as the light brigade, as people who are army of light, we have to see that person and say something kind. Now, it's not a bullshit kind. The beings have been very careful to say that. Don't lie. Don't bullshit. Be honest. But you could find something about somebody you're dealing with and go, wow, that's a lovely necklace. Or you have beautiful eyes, right? You can find something genuine and caring and optimistic to say to that person. And I'll tell you, as a light worker, you can feel they're already in a bad mood, or you can feel something's gone wrong. And you have the opportunity now to either move towards light activity or dark activity. So it takes you 2 seconds to say something kind. So a lot of people are like, oh, this is so airy-fairy. How do I do it in the real? Well, this is what it is. We start helping each other. The man on the side of the road that people are like, oh, bum, get a job. That is not our place. Remember I said don't judge. Judgment is one of our worst low frequency happeners. It's just like boom. As soon as you judge somebody, if you see somebody in a chaos, trauma, torment, doesn't matter how they got there, they need your love and compassion and assistance. If you can give them $10, and somebody said to me one time, I was coming out of a spiritual event. This was funny. And I came out of a spiritual event. I just spoke for 4 hours about what I'm talking to you about. And this man is on the side of the road in a wheelchair, and he's beat up. This guy is struggling. So anyway, I went over and I gave him $20, and I put my arms around him. I gave him a hug, and I said, I'm so sorry things are tough right now, but they're going to get better. Things are getting better. We're moving towards better. It's going to be better. It's going to be great. And I gave him the bit of money. And as I walked away, the people that I was in the spiritual, oh, we're in this big spiritual event. And they're like, oh, you hugged him? Like he's only going to drink that money. And I'm like, oh my God, if you're the spiritual people that are going to make the changes, we're all fucked. Honest to God, because this man needed compassion and care and $20. And if he spends it on whatever his joy is, I hope you have wonderful joy. Don't forget to say thank you. So, the people that came out of this event with me were completely upset that I'd had this encounter. But this is what's necessary for us to move into high frequency living, especially right now with everything being so low frequency. How do you apply this stuff to full on human activity? Somebody said to me one day, "Oh, how do I need to do more." Well, what you need to do right now is look for places to be of service. You're looking for places to give somebody a sandwich. You know, my kid the other day, he takes his coat off. Now, this kid is amazing, my son. He takes his coat off and he gives it to this homeless man. And he says, you need this coat. It's really cold. And the guy goes, "Oh, no, I don't need your coat." He says, "That's okay." And Evan goes, "I have another one. Take this coat. It's really warm." And of course, me being the old broad who makes the money, I'm like, ah! He's giving his coat away. But he's doing what I'm teaching, right? He takes... We've left a restaurant and he's got a box full of leftovers, which he can't wait to get home and eat, and he gives it to somebody. So it is about, in the doing, recreate the reality. Look for places to be of service. Look for places to connect with another human. Really start to use your intuition around dealing with people and seeing, oh, this person is sad. What can I say or do or create to give a little assistance? Another one, Evan came out the other day and he gave this guy a sandwich and a drink. And he said to the guy, "Can I hug you?" And the guy goes, "Well, that's the best offer I've had all day." So they were embracing and Evan's crying. And he gets in the car and he goes, "What's wrong with us? Why is it that this has happened?" But it's symptoms of a world in chaos. So we just have to see it. That's what it is right now. I send you love, I send you love, I send you love. I help where I can help. I put my hand in my pocket and I give to where I can give. I started saying to my son, let's put a couple of boxes of granola bars in the car, or something that if we don't have something, we can say, well, look, we don't have any money, but there's a couple of these bars, or there's a couple of things. Because all he wants to do is be of service. And this is what the young people are like. They want to be of service, but they don't know where. They think they have to make huge happenings, but it's not. It's the little microscopic happenings, helping somebody with a bag, helping somebody with a car door, helping somebody cross a street, giving somebody a couple of granola bars. They're micro movements towards a huge movement. My son is 23 now. So, but he definitely struggles with the human piece, the same as me. 1 minute you're like, rah, 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 rah. And I was like, oh, wait now, that's low frequency. That's not going to work. So, you go back to your family of origin stuff, what your mother did, what your father did, what your grandfather did. And so as enlightened people, as people who are now more awake and moving and working with this energy, we have to start to see our psychology. Oh, wait now, my dad did that. Or, oh, wait now, my mom did that. Oh, it didn't work for them. It's not going to work for me. So I choose. Everything now is about I choose. I choose to do something slightly different. So one of the stories is I took my kids to a birthday meal and we were sat at the restaurant and the young girl came over to serve the food. And she was as crotchety as could be. And I was like, whoa. Now sometimes all my dials are on and I'm like, oh, something's happened. And you can feel it, you can sense it. Most of us who are doing light work can. So the woman was crotchety, and my kids are sitting there. They're young. I think they were like 15 and 9 or something, 10. And they're like, oh, she's in a bad mood. I said, let me show you what energy can do. So they're like, okay, because I was constantly trying to find a place to teach. And this woman came over, and she was crotchety. So I started with the simplest things of saying something to her that was kind. You look for some honest thing to say. And anyway, by the end of the conversation, by the end of the evening, she was laughing, and she came over and she said, I'm so sorry I was so cranky when I started. I don't, my kid had a sickness or whatever the list of stories were. And she came over and she said, I'm getting you all free cake. So what could have been the worst meal of our lives, because she was having such a bad day, turned into be one of the most beautiful experiences that the kids had experienced, because they saw her blossom. She went from having a really crappy day, and with kindness and attention and just somebody really being present for her, it changed everything for her. And we can do that for each other. We don't have to join some big fund and send a whole bunch of money. We don't have to start a big company that we're going to bring blankets to people who are poor, which, by the way, is my son's thing. I'm like, let's do sandwiches and blankets, right? We just have to find the small little places to put an acorn of hope, an acorn of love, a little nugget. I always say we're like Johnny Appleseed, going around planting seeds of prosperity and love and abundance and joy, and with our energy portals, wishing people happy, joyful experiences. Oftentimes people will walk away from me and I do this, ding, 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 because they're crotchety. And you want them to be happier, and you want them to have a fuller, richer experience. So all of these things are engaging our energetic being and our human being. Do what we can, physical. Do what you can where you can. But energetically, you're so much more powerful.
The beings told me that they are putting code in everything. So music has code. Our iconic television, our movies, there's code. Different types of books and stuff, they're code. Because what they want ultimately is for us to wake up to this truth. You are not just a human being. You're a human and a being.
Now here's an interesting story. Eminem. Everybody would think that Eminem's he's pretty crass. He's, all these different things. He's Eminem. But they told me that he was slated to be a world leader, and that his music is filled with tones of stand up, be accountable, make yourself ready, be of service. Now, not the language, if his songs are filled with language that are counter to the song, but his music is filled with be powerful, stand up, hold your place. And I said, well, why would you put tones in his music? He said, where else do you think the children are listening? So they're smart enough to know where to put those pulses of energy. One of the strongest energy films I've ever watched is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, of all things. And I'll tell you, people who've watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show are awake. It did its job. It was infused with tap, tap, tap. Are you listening? Pay attention. And the story's about 3 extraterrestrials that came down to Earth. It's a strange little story. But when I was dying and the voice said, give yourself over to absolute pleasure, that's from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I was like, this is really strange. But that's because they put tones in books, like in reading. They put it in music. They put it in movies. In the movie Cocoon, she pulls down her eye and this light flashes out. That's truth. These beings are inside of us. These suits are they're the play suits.